Floods once again ravaged Sudan. It is a diverse land, but never more diverse than in a catastrophe.
We are facing many disasters at a time. Sudan is a large and very big country and disaster-prone country. In the north and central parts, we are facing floods. In other parts, we are facing droughts. While in the southern and eastern part, we are dealing with humanitarian disasters related to the conflicts. So the resources, whatever resources are available, will be shared between these victims. So it's not enough.
In the largest of all African countries, with 9 neighbors required to surround it, these are just some of the challenges facing the 21 branches and 220,000 volunteers of the Sudanese Red Crescent. Never have the challenges been greater. Floods in northern and eastern Sudan in 1998 were among the worst in living memory. Tens of thousands of people were left homeless. An appeal from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies supported an immediate Red Crescent response. 158,000 victims would be assisted.
They need medical care because this water, about a week, they will have malaria, they will have typhoid, already they have diarrhea. They need medical care, they need shelter sheets because the houses are totally destroyed. They need food because the food itself is not that clean in house. The water itself, you can see, you can't drink such a thing like this. They bring water from Shendi city to drink.
Spanish Red Cross aid flights were quick to arrive in Khartoum. In northern state alone, the Nile had flooded along a 1,000-kilometer stretch. Villages had been engulfed, farmland inundated. Trucks prepared for formidable journeys into the interior.
There is no reason all the aid shouldn't reach the beneficiaries, except the extremely difficult conditions on the ground. It is impossible to reach the areas where the most vulnerable people are for purely physical reasons. There are no other problems.
Red Crescent assessment teams spread out to monitor developments. Across the troubled north, there was a chronic need for food and shelter. Water-related disease threatened the population, for even after the deluge receded, stagnant and polluted water provided a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes and was a source of diarrheal disease. Medicines and emergency health kits were spread through 7 states where the Red Crescent focused on treatment and prevention. Along with the drugs, chemicals, and sprayers that were distributed to control the mosquitoes and other insects plaguing many regions, health education provided essential awareness. Conflict and drought deepened famine in the south. More than 2.5 million people were at risk. A mass movement of mankind was underway as the malnourished sought food and safety. In Wau, the capital of Bahr al-Ghazal region, scores were dying daily. The Sudanese Red Crescent was the first organization to establish a feeding center here. Run by volunteers, supplied by the World Food Programme, it fed and cared for 300 children under the age of 5 every day. People walked for weeks to reach Wau, many of them skeletal figures. And at the peak of the movement, 2,000 people a day were filing into Wau. The Red Crescent targeted the children. New arrivals were examined, measured, and weighed, and their diet was determined by the findings. Every 2 weeks, every child was weighed and examined again, and feeding continued until they reached 85% of the standard weight for their height. A doctor was on hand to deal with the most serious cases, and UNICEF ensured a stock of medicines.
The long-term program is that after these people have been fed and they are okay, then the question will arise here, should we move them to a safer place where they can have an access to land, where they can then be given tools and seeds and cultivate? If this is done, then the people will be able to survive. If we don't do it, then nobody will survive.
But the people who arrived in Wau were more than undernourished. They were destitute. All they had left were their lives. In the town stadium, in cooperation with Save the Children Fund UK, the Sudanese Red Crescent distributed non-food essentials. Jerry cans, blankets, mosquito nets, cooking utensils, some clothing, soap, plastic sheeting and tarpaulin as well. Community health care is a core activity of the Sudanese Red Crescent, as the Morabat Health Center in eastern Kassala illustrates. Backed by the Netherlands Red Cross, it provides health care to more than 5,800 people, many of them from deprived shanty settlements in Morabat. Opened in 1995, it is the only clinic in the area. And as well as general medical services, it provides dental, eye, nutritional, and mother and child health care. Health care is not free in Sudan, but no one is turned away here, even if they are penniless. But even in the east, emergencies preoccupy the Red Crescent. The 1998 floods hit Kassala and stretched to the limit the resources of this Red Crescent branch, which was already caring for thousands left homeless by conflict. But while the ongoing disaster in southern Sudan had the world's attention, the plight of villagers fleeing the country's eastern border had gone barely noticed.
We couldn't take anything with us. We left all of our belongings behind.
Beneath the Taka Mountains, the population of numerous makeshift camps was growing daily, as more and more families abandoned homes along the Eritrean border for fear of shelling. They languished in pitiful conditions, increasingly in ill health. Since the start of the exodus, the Red Crescent had provided food, shelter, and medical assistance for many, but the enduring border problems drained supplies. Clinics ran short of medicine, while demands upon their services were forever increasing. The society persevered regardless, and more support came, particularly from the Red Crescent Society of the United Arab Emirates. Its food was desperately needed. Hundreds of tons, most of it locally purchased sorghum, was distributed to a hungry, often undernourished population. Care for the displaced continues, and for other victims of conflict. Villagers who have stayed behind, mostly to care for precious animals, are frequently in harm's way. Landmines bring patients to Kassala Hospital. Many have died in mine explosions. Many have been maimed, like this 13-year-old boy. Red Crescent mercy missions evacuate victims from the border area. Regional problems require regional solutions. In Western Sudan, North Darfur State Branch cares for its own affairs. From Khartoum, Red Crescent headquarters provide support, but decisions in relief and development come from El Fasher, the state capital. In normally arid North Darfur, peasant farmers and nomadic herders make up 90% of the population. Drought is their foremost problem. The regional branch has labored long and hard to maximize the use of limited rainfall and scarce water resources.
And also we are going to make another out, that it should take the water outside, and we are not allowing any person to come in.
Food for Work projects have mobilized many communities to construct dams, reservoirs, and catchment areas to ease the rural hardship.
I get the water myself. My kids are not here. They have all gone to big cities looking for jobs. It takes the whole day.
Work continues, but water supplies for tens of thousands of people and their livestock have already been created. It remains a tough environment, and a tougher one for women alone. Supporting the vulnerable, helping the troubled to help themselves, is a hallmark of the Sudanese Red Crescent. The plight of widows and women fending for families concerned the North Darfur branch greatly. Nowhere more so than in the desert town of Melit, what was required was an income-generating project. Wool from sheep and camels was plentiful, so a carpet-making venture was born. Since ECHO provided startup funds in 1993, a Red Crescent training program has nurtured 240 women weavers in Melit and their product today has a growing reputation and market. Drought brings more than the threat of famine. For the Beja nomads of northeastern Sudan, drought has put their culture at risk. Despite a steady urban drift, many still struggle to survive in the Red Sea hills. Long familiar with chronic drought, it is a daunting land of sand and stone desert, of craggy brown hills, oppressive heat and humidity. Red Crescent relief operations have been frequent here. Much of the livestock on which the Beja depend has been lost to drought. The Red Crescent, supported by the Danish Red Cross, believes that only community development can break this pattern. So it seeks to strengthen traditional coping mechanisms while nurturing new ones. Wells, dams, and irrigation schemes bring the nomads a fresh agricultural perspective. Cultivation, they say, is reducing dependence on animals.
We only facilitate for them to continue their work, to learn how to cultivate, because they are nomadic people.
Seed distribution has changed the outlook of this man and his son. What they plant here will produce sufficient sorghum to last the family 3 months. Along with their goats, it will see them through a difficult period. While developing agriculture, Red Crescent programs are broadening other horizons. By building rural schools, providing teaching materials, and supporting teachers and students, it is hoped the young will find new alternatives, fresh job opportunities, and higher levels of income.
And I hope that the project will benefit from that improved performance in the sense that it should be possible to continue the projects.
Literacy and income-generating projects for women are steadily developing the role of women in a society where 95% of them have had no or little education. Equal opportunity is yet to be dreamed of by many, but the programs provide a tentative first step towards a brighter future. Growing urbanization is a challenge. In Khartoum, the population increased from 1.5 million in 1983 to around 5 million 10 years later. Refugees from the drought and economic migrants account for a considerable percentage of the newcomers, but there are now thought to be around 2 million southerners in the Khartoum area, displaced by the long-running conflict in the south. Those who have fled man-made and natural disaster find support from the Red Crescent. In the El Salam camp, some 140,000 displaced southerners depend on the Red Crescent to deliver 1.5 million liters of water a day from a series of boreholes. Displaced camps rely on National Society clinics and health services and mobilizing camp populations. The Red Crescent trains teams of community health workers and provides health education. To reduce malaria, homes are sprayed, kilometers of canals maintained, pools and ponds of stagnant water drained. Besides the environmental cleanup, an awareness campaign was launched. Among the most vulnerable in any burgeoning city are the young and the elderly. Outside the camps, in deprived areas where the rural displaced have settled, the Red Crescent has constructed badly needed schools funded by the German Red Cross. Thousands of children and adults have benefited from a community education and development program.
In terms of the grassroots membership, then we're told that the society has over 200,000 members, but I think the real strength is in those activities in the communities, whether it's in the area of Port Sudan, or it's in the area of Khartoum State, or in the area of Western Sudan, where really there are real success stories, however small those projects are, where those projects are really making difference for for the beneficiaries and communities at large.
Helped by the Red Crescent, egg lady Neama Salih earns money for her family and the respect of her community. With 55 chickens in her yard, she sells daily to local market traders, and business is going so well she is talking of expanding it. Today she earned 4,200 Sudanese pounds and a useful net profit.
Before, I was wandering about the market to buy a few things and sold them. But with this project, I've settled down in my house and I'm selling eggs to the market. I've gained a lot of experience and money out of it and feel this project is continuing very well.
Displaced from home regions, the elderly can be marginalized as custom and traditional position are lost to them. So this program of services not only provides care, but seeks to return purpose and influence to them.
We find them very depressed, although they are living with their families. But when we come and visit the elderly and we did this program, really we find there is a big change, because now they are looking for future.
Over ceremonial coffee once a week, the elderly come together for a social gathering. The young come to listen and to learn traditional healing. And as knowledge is passed on, a culture is strengthened and enriched.
The coffee party refreshes my mind and opens my eyes. I don't come unless a gathering like this is taking place.
Mostly I appreciate the income generation part of the program. I want to run a shop myself and become self-sufficient. That's why I come here.
The Sudanese Red Crescent, helping the community to help itself.